One of the things that seems to have emerged over the past decade or so is the war on terror, and the way that that seems to have shifted the whole battleground from physical space into the media space. At the risk of sounding too esoteric about it, in practical terms what it's meant is that journalists have become legitimate targets. We've become the battleground in ways that we never were before. It was always a dangerous business, particularly when you're working in hostile environments with bits of metal flying around. But what's happened now is that journalism has become fair game for both sides, whether it's governments who are trying to clamp down on freedom of speech issues, who are trying to clamp down on groups that they think are beyond the pale, that are too radical for them, or whether it's from those groups themselves who deciding that they don't want or like the kind of ideologies that they believe journalists are a part of. And so we are becoming targets. What emerged out of our case was what really is possible. I mean, what was extraordinary was the extent to which the public got behind our particular case, the Free AJ staff campaign. The extraordinary way that our colleagues, our professional colleagues, got involved, and the extraordinary way that politicians and diplomats all over the world lined up in a way that I don't think we've seen in any other situation before in the history of the media, to be honest. That tells us two things. First of all, just how much can be achieved if everybody does pull together, if we're able to get these kinds of coalitions going, but also how disturbingly rare it is to be able to get that kind of group. Clearly you can't do this all the time. So what we need to do is to try to take the goodwill that was generated out of our case and turn it into something that's institutional. Again, I don't think it's appropriate necessarily to create the kind of noise that was created around our case in every instance, but you need to have that kind of energy moving in a common direction. However it's happened, I seem to have some moral authority with this, and so if people are listening, then I need to speak about it. That's now my role, to talk at meetings, to talk publicly, to try and get access to some of the really powerful decision makers, to make sure that they understand the issues and that we can move things forward. I don't think it's going to be easy, but it just feels as though I've been given an opportunity that I really feel I need to use. I think INSI is a great place to start. It's an industry organisation that was set up by industry groups to try and bring together a lot of the safety and security protocols and to try and improve the way that we handle journalist safety. But it's not a global conversation, and in a globalised industry we need to expand that conversation to include everybody. We had a meeting in Riga at the UNESCO conference around World Press Freedom Day, and we brought together a number of groups, a number of international news organisations from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America, as well as European groups, and it became quite clear that although we've got a common interest, there isn't common standards around the world. And I think what we need to do is to try and expand this, because what we all think of as press freedom, press safety and journalist safety in Europe doesn't apply in the Middle East, and yet European journalists are working in the Middle East and vice versa. So we need to make sure that this is a conversation that crosses borders.